healers in MMO or isekai anime, you might get some wrong ideas.
Seriously. And those healers be like,
"Is everyone okay? How bad are your wounds?"
But when you've actually played a healer, you know what it's really like.
Quad B, quit attacking the boss and keep sentinels off us. C and D, stop attacking from the front. Do you even know what flank means?
Healers are often some of the most important characters on a team. They can, and often do, mean the difference between life and death. So with that importance in mind, I'm going to be counting down my top 15 healers in gaming. There are many factors as to how we're going to be ranking the characters on this list. 1. How useful of a healer are they? How much can they save their team from defeat? 2. How much/often do they heal? 3. How do they take the Hippocratic Oath into account? How does it impact them? 4. If they do have combat abilities, are they used more in self-defense and/or prevention? 5. How interesting is their personality? How do they go beyond being the stock pure-hearted maiden? 6. How is their healing creative in terms of concept or gameplay? 7. How does being a healer factor into their backstory and role? With all that in mind, let's jump into it. These are the top 15 healers in gaming. Smite pits up various gods and demigods from different mythologies against each other. As such, there are several depicted entities of a single element to be found here. The gods of death in particular are portrayed as the gloomy and edgy harbingers that you'd typically expect. Except for one.
Don't you assume his role, little man? Don't you stereotype, hold your breath. Baron Samedi's here, his title. Party god of life and death. Now what do you expect, gentlemen? Sure, it's a little atypical, but makes sense in context, you'll see. Come and join his party. Bear no dismay or groove. If you relax, he'll be sure to heal you with his special Baron's brew. He can deal hysteria, makes foes weaker too, and it multiplies his damage output. Not with healing or whatever. Made that play of the game come true. With his voodoo wheel to undo, he'll save you from the river land. Cause he's the party god of life and death.
Parodies aside, that more or less explains what the Baron's main mechanic is: hysteria. Enemies inflicted by it become prime targets for the secondary effects of his voodoo magic. The magic we're looking at in particular is Consigned Spirits, an attack which, if it hits, heals the health towards Baron Samedi and his nearby allies. The healing gets even stronger if the enemy is inflicted with hysteria, as it helps allies recover from slow effects and even boosts their speed. Combine this with his ability to share the Baron's brew, and you got yourself a healer that's conventional both passively and in combat. What puts the Baron at the bottom of the list, though, is that he mainly plays the healing role half and half with his combat skills. His healing output is still really good, but not without requiring to deal a lot of damage for most of the time. This doesn't discredit him by any means, of course. He's still arguably the most interesting and statistically most effective healer in Smite. It's mostly just refreshing to have a god of death that's not all doom and gloom and is out to party it up with his dead mates. He gives you what you want, but instead of losing what you had, he gives you more. Ain't he a generous old god of creepy black magic? Command Mission is the closest you get to a traditional turn-based RPG when it comes to Mega Man. And like most turn-based RPGs, it has party members that fulfill certain roles. Massimo is the tank, Marino is the thief, Axel is the mimic, and so on. Which of course means you'd have the main healer. Meet Cinnamon, your sweet and soft-spoken nurse lolly of the day.
I really need to stop using that word.
Cinnamon does exactly what you'd expect a healer to do. She keeps her party alive by healing them with her action trigger, Angelic Aid. She doesn't have high HP starting off, but she becomes one of the bulkiest characters in the game, resisting just about all elemental attacks. Her high erosion capacity means she can equip stronger force metals easier than other party members. So if her low HP is an issue for you, you can always shove a bunch of life energy plus on her to compensate. Adding on, she also plays the role of a force metal generator. This means she can forge and create new force metals for the party, given she has the recipes and materials. Not only does this make her an optimal healing unit, she also solidifies herself as an extremely valuable support teammate. But it doesn't stop there. Her hyper mode, Iron Maiden, bolsters her defenses to a massive scale, making her practically invincible within the few turns it's active. It also increases her low damage output, which helps make it easier for her weapon energy to charge up and activate her action trigger. Although, what brings Cinnamon down a bit is that you pretty much have to wait a few turns before you can start healing your allies. As such, you'll be mostly using items for healing before anything else. Granted, Cinnamon isn't much of a combatant regardless, but her less frequent healing rate does take off a little from her credibility as a strict healer. Still, can't say no to a character who does their part in keeping the group alive as well as she did. Plus, there's just something funny about seeing a tiny Reploid girl slapping giant Reploids to their deaths. Who gets stuck with all the bad luck? We all know who, but he didn't make the cut for this list. I mean, technically Donald is your go-to healer since he's the magic guy, but he's about as effective as an actual duck, and it gets annoying having to swap out party members that are, how do I say this nicely, better, just to keep his magic. Thankfully, there's another healer that gets the job done better than Donald ever could, and without having to swap party members out. But there's a catch. It's Tinkerbell. Yes, that Tinkerbell, the little sociopathic pixie. And anyone who's seen any iteration of Peter Pan will know that personality-wise, Tink is the furthest thing from a healer. She's jealous, she's clingy, she's scheming, all without speaking a single word. It's been said that fairies are so small, they can only feel one emotion. That's the case, Tink is a bitch to the core. That being said, she's also your best bet for healing on the battlefield. Even though she's a summon, you don't have to swap party members out. And the best part, even after she's summoned, she never fully goes away. Instead, she stays in the fight, healing you and your allies until you say, bye Felicia, and can even fully restore your HP if you hit 0, as long as you don't fully die on her. Her healing abilities make a comeback in Chain of Memories, but her time on the field is a lot more limited. Also, her card is one of the key ingredients to confusing enemies. Yeah, Tinkerbell is a cow and a half, but she's a much needed asset if you want to stay alive during combat. Plus, the fact that she doesn't try to kill you means you must have done something right.
Alright, so far we've had a god, a robot, and a pixie. I wonder what's on next of our list of fantastical healer creatures. Just a guy.
For those who haven't heard of this series, the Trauma Center series is a surgeon simulator. No, not that one. This one is actually taken seriously. Okay, you need to defuse a bomb here or there, and there's a game show where you perform surgery on the air, but you are also performing surgery to defeat sentient viruses that can duplicate and burrow into the hearts of men, like their actual hearts, and kill them. But then again, you're able to slow down time, and yeah, I don't know what to think about this series. Anyways, as you can guess, we were talking about one of the playable surgeons from this series, and that would be the original main character, Derek Stiles. Derek is your normal, mild-mannered surgeon who awakens to his ability to slow down time during a very stressful surgery that almost caused the patient to pass. This ability, called the Healing Touch, allows him to save patients that couldn't be saved normally. But this sometimes can go to the good doctor's head. Throughout the game, Derek struggles not only to learn his abilities, but also to not let them define him. He goes through an arc where he becomes too dependent on his abilities, and it causes him to not be able to save a patient he thought he could. And it eventually causes him to rethink his own drive as a doctor. Despite these setbacks, Derek still proves to be an extremely capable surgeon fighting the viruses known as the Guilt and Neo-Guilt that plagues the patients you operate on in each of the games. Even in the 2 games he isn't playable in, he proves to be a valuable asset by cooperating with the surgeons of those games and treating the super viruses they are facing using his experience as reference. Derek, of course, isn't the usual suspect we would see for this list, as he's a surgeon, not a magic-wielding healer. But his drive and duty to save as many people as he can, using the skills he was given and honed, makes him as much of a healer as, or maybe even better than, some of the others on this list.
Honestly, I was surprised to see a capable surgeon in a video game.
Fairly certain you're right.
Can you blame me?
The Hippocratic Oath is a sacred promise to uphold the ethics and highest standards of medical science. While more modernized than it used to be, the oath is still encouraged and followed by many physicians today. The medic from Team Fortress 2 is not one of those physicians.
The code is more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules.
He doesn't follow the Hippocratic Oath. He subscribes to the hypocritical oath. He shamelessly experiments on his teammates, keeps a severed spy head in the fridge. He sold his soul to the frickin' devil and then had 8 more stitched on that he got from his own teammates. So you see, the medic is not your run-of-the-mill medical practitioner.
Let's go practice medicine.
No, he's an artist. And undeniably my all-time favorite TF2 character. Those who have watched my other content know I have a personal connection with the guy.
Stab, make funny noise. Stab, stab.
Unfortunately, I had to deduct a lot of points because, yeah, Medic's less of a healer and more of a mad scientist. His ethics are twisted and he's pretty much out of his gourd. But come on, he's just too much fun to hate, and I had to fit him in here somewhere. Plus, he does come in handy on the battlefield when it comes to healing your team or bringing them back to life, if he doesn't get blown up himself. He's also got incredible melee range and when fully charged, can render his teammates bulletproof. So yeah, he's a malpracticing whack job, but he's a whack job who can turn mere grunts for hire into gods. As far as win rate goes, it really all depends on how much practice you've got with him. Like I said in my favorite characters list, Medic's easy to pick up, but hard to master. Knowing when to ubercharge or how to save your flank for getting blown up and backstabbed while healing or reviving can really determine the line between victory or getting sent to the morgue, and then getting experimented on by the next medic. Blastia is essential in the world of Tales of Vesperia. Everything from powering ships to heating to casting magic depends on it. The whole story kicks off when a Blastia that provides clean drinking water is stolen. When Yuri goes off to investigate, he meets Estelle and the two of them go off together. Being a child of the full moon, Estelle is one of the few capable of using magic without a Blastia. She grew up as a sheltered noble in the capital, and a large part of the game involves her learning the intricacies of the outside world. Being a healer, she has an innate drive to help others. As opposed to some other games in the series where you have 2 primary healers, Vesperia goes back to having 1 main healer. Estelle's magic is equally capable of both AoE and single target healing, so she has great versatility. Offensively, she's equally capable of melee and magic attacks. This makes her indispensable in battle and a mainstay in the party, as it takes a while for the other characters to get access to AoE healing. Being so useful in battle means that Estelle more than earns her place on the list. Personality-wise, though she does get good character development, I still feel she's a bit too close to the healer archetype. Interestingly enough, Estelle isn't actually the love interest in Vesperia. Her and Yuri, despite being the heroine and hero, are ultimately just friends. Not that it matters, we all know who Estelle's real love interest is.
Rita, what does it feel like to fly through the sky?
It's hard to put it into words, but it's not bad.
It looks like it would feel good.
You want to try? Huh? I can handle your weight, no problem. Here, hang on to my legs. This is so much fun! It's a good stress reliever, don't you think?
Hey, it's time to go. Come on, Estelle.
Estelle?
We're 2 different people, you know.
Some of the most important individuals in the world of Final Fantasy X are the Summoners. They are tasked with the important ritual of stopping sin so that the people of Spira can enjoy peace, if only for a limited time. They also conduct the important task of sending the spirits of the dead to the far plane. The main summoner of Final Fantasy X is Yuna. Yuna is focused, duty-bound, and eternally selfless. Even before you meet her, she's accepted that her mission will end in her death. As the main heroine of the game, the story follows her journey across Spira to collect the Aeons and defeat Sin. Wait a minute. A JRPG where you control powerful creatures, battle them against others who do the same, and journey to locations across the world to grow stronger.
You were playing Pokemon this whole time?
As a summoner, Yuna is an absolute beast in battle. Each of her summons are essentially party members in their own right, complete with their own abilities and even overdrives. You can summon Seymour's mom for crying out loud. As a healer, Yuna is, well, Magic got hit pretty hard in X thanks to most spells not being able to group cast. Thus, Yuna can't exactly bring back the party from the brink with a well-timed AoE. She does have Pray, but it restores less than a basic cure. So that, combined with the big standard personality, means I can't really rank Yuna any higher. In fact, I go as far as to say that Riku is the superior healer due to having an innate AoE and her mix giving her amazing support options. Of course, if you're going for the super bosses, Auto Phoenix is the best healer.
It's almost like Final Fantasy games are poorly balanced or something.
Well, up to this point, we've had all types of healers, from gods to surgeons to whatever you want to call the medic. It's weird that we got this far without the devout religious healer you often see in games. Sure, we just had Yuna, but by the end of the game, she wasn't as faithful. And you remember X2. So let's go over to the Fire Emblem series where those are super plentiful. Though healers in Fire Emblem can be a bit weird to place, as all of their abilities are based on what staves they're capable of using. I know speedrunners would put any healer using the Warp Staff in high contention, but we're looking at healers with the innate power. Luckily, Three Houses got rid of the staff option for a natural ability, and we have one that fits all of the above criteria from the Blue Lion's House, Mercedes. Now, Mercedes might be a weird choice in and of itself. Yes, she is the main healer for the Blue Lion's House, and yes, she is a sister who is devout to the in-world church, satisfying the weird tie-in I tried to do earlier, but there are also strong healers that are just as good as her, like Flame. It's because we're starting to look more towards personality as healer in addition to their healing skills as we keep progressing through the list. Mercedes isn't just your average healer, she's the classroom's big sister. Many of her conversations involve helping others overcome emotional problems they may have. She's also one of the few to actually be able to wrangle Sylvain, which is a feat in itself. Sure, her personality isn't as vibrant as other cast members, but let's be fair. With how good Three Houses cast is, you have a B trying to swim with a bunch of A's. That's also a feat in itself. As for her actual healing skills, she's one of 2 units who are capable of using the best healing spell in the game, Fortify, which lets her heal everyone in a wide radius. She can also use the ranged physic and ailment cure restore. The main thing here that would put her above Flame though would be her personal skill, Live to Serve, which lets her heal herself with the same HP she heals another with. Great for her survivability. Overall, Mercedes is a great character and healer. She is easily the best healer in the game thanks to her combination of Fortify, Physic, and Live to Serve. Probably won't be used for speedrunning since she doesn't have Warp though. Yeah, give her the Stride Gambit. It's just as good. At this point, I like to pay a special tribute to the elderly ladies of our lives. They can be nurturing and caring souls as grandmas, or they can be some of the most savage dames you've ever met. In more ways than one. I notice that once people reach a certain age, things begin to be put into perspective, and some things tend to matter less, like people's opinions.
Perhaps Master would like some warm mixed nuts and a moist hand towel.
Watch yourself, Pennyworth. I'm not so young that I don't understand sarcasm.
While I am much too old to care.
This leads us to our next healer, Wynn, from Dragon Age Origins. She's basically the kindly grandma of the franchise. Very encouraging, caring, but also has a little bit of a sassy, mischievous side. Thankfully, it's nothing really cruel, just some harmless fun and teasing. And the occasional shade.
When the end comes, I will go gladly to my rest, proud of my achievements. While you will see how empty your life was. You will realize that because you never had love for others, you never received love in return. And you will die alone and unmourned.
Damn! But all that aside, she's a mage of purity to the core and will not tolerate it if you decide to do a few immoral no-nos. And trust me, you want Wynn on your good side because her spirit healing abilities are really good at keeping you and your party alive. She can heal, revive, and protect anyone who's even close to death. Heck, she herself is actually supposed to be dead, but the Spirit of Faith using her as a vessel is what's keeping her alive. But it won't last forever. She's on borrowed time and she's gonna spend it trying to do some good. So yeah, be good to Granny. That little fact at the end does remind me of one disappointing thing about her being a spirit healer. Now, don't get me wrong, spirit healer abilities are helpful, especially since you can teach it to other mages, but not as helpful or strong ratio-wise compared to others on this list. Maybe it's because I just played on normal, but rarely did she or her specific abilities saved the game for me. And actually, you can't even learn these abilities from her. You have to buy a book from the General Magic shop that teaches you how to spirit heal, or at least keep Wynn on your good side. But really, you take what you can get, especially if it means gaining the support of the kick-ass granny.
This may come as a shock to you, my loyal viewers, but I, joshscorcher, Fiery Joker Productions, have an obsession with fire.
Yeah, I know, who could have seen this one coming, but I'm actually going somewhere with this. I know everyone sees fire as an all-consuming, destructive element, and yeah, it pretty much is. But it can also be used for good, and even healing. You're making it up! Think I'm lying? Well, I wouldn't blame you, because people seem to forget that fire is a purifying element. It's used to cauterize, sanitize, and sterilize, killing harmful microbes and pathogens, making things safe to consume and touch. It's also a comforting element, as fire and really just heat in general are used to recover from cold and in massages. So yeah, there are such a thing as fire healers, and I really want to see more of them in video games. Why do I bring this up? Because one of these fire healers has been dubbed the Lifebringer herself, Alexstrasza from the World of Warcraft franchise. She's one of the 5 dragons chosen to safeguard over Azeroth and the one chosen to protect all the world's creatures, and was even given the title Queen of the Dragons. Along with being a shapeshifter, incredibly agile, and almost immune to projectiles, her healing abilities are multifold. In the main series, she can regrow plants, heal the land itself, and even revive the dead. While in Heroes of the Storm, she can bind her life energy with her allies and even breathe fire that can heal them while damaging her enemies, because magical dragons. Yeah, as you can see, she's very much an odd combination of fire and nature healer. I mean, it's kind of ironic considering fire and nature aren't exactly buddy-buddy, but it's good to know she's multifaceted and she holds all forms of life to the highest degree and makes sure its cycle continues to turn.
Life begets life, and the cycle begins anew.
While Alexstrasza is definitely a noble soul, she's also kind of bland personality-wise. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against healers with compassion. It's especially welcome since she's a dragon, but with a lot of healers, having compassion is unfortunately all there is, and unfortunately Alexstrasza is no exception. Thankfully, her skills more than compensate for that. However, while her powers in Heroes of the Storm are definitely a literal lifesaver, her overall effectiveness in the actual World of Warcraft storyline, I'll be charitable and say debatable. Nevertheless, it's comforting to know she'll give it her all to preserve all life. Now, it's one thing to be able to heal physical scars, but it's another to successfully heal the mind and spirit. Being able to find that inner peace and the strength to move forward even in the darkest times. Strangely enough, the one who knows this the most in the Overwatch world is not a man, but a machine. An Omnic to be precise. Named Takartha Zenyatta. Zenyatta is one of the few Omnics to break away from their pre-programmed existence following an epiphany and vowed to fix their relationship with the humans. Zenyatta wanted a more interpersonal approach and decided to wander the world, offering help to anyone he'd come across. Along the way, he met Genji and healed his spirit, helping him come to terms with being half human, half machine, and becoming a mentor to him. Now you may be wondering, where does his power come from? Well, it's all in the balls.
Get out, everybody!
Ugh, no, the orbs around his neck, yeesh. The orbs he wields each carry a special ability that can both heal allies and harm enemies. Yes, even a robotic monk isn't above defending himself when needed. His Orb of Destruction allows him to shoot projectiles at his foes, his Orb of Harmony can heal any of Zenyatta's allies as long as they hold onto it, and the Orb of Discord cranks up the damage onto his enemies. And there's his pseudo-invincibility ult, Transcendence, where he enters the ultimate stage of inner peace. His attacks are disabled, but he's immune to everything, and he constantly heals all nearby allies as long as he's in his new Nirvana-like state. Admittedly, there's not anything exceptional going on for him personality-wise, just the common wax-on, wax-off, highly enlightened guru guy. And sadly, his healing output isn't really as good as the others on this list. That being said, he has a really high win rate, and his destructive orbs do a heck of a lot of damage. Ironic, since he's a pacifist, but he also knows when to defend himself. And really, despite the blandness, you gotta admire him rising above his programming to reach true enlightenment. And I mean, rising literally, as he's floating most of the time. If he were to actually use his legs...
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I can't really do a list like this without talking about a game where you need to worry about healing a lot, League of Legends. And fans of mine will not be surprised whatsoever that the person I picked from here is none other than the fallen star child, Soraka. So what can I say about Soraka? One second. I need to check Riot's website for current lore. She has like 12. Okay. Wander from social dimensions. Got it. Okay. Gave up her immortality to help mortals. Okay, good. She's compassionate. That's important. Spreads her virtues and even heals those who wish harm on her. Okay. There we go. We got it. Yeah, Soraka is your typical benevolent healer. She wants to help everyone and spreads her values of compassion and mercy to people through her healing. And heal she does. Super well. Her spell Astral Infusion allows her to sacrifice her own health to heal others. If you want to get to an injured person quickly, use Salvation to increase movement speed. Want to damage enemies while healing yourself? Well, call upon the stars with Star Call. And of course, you want a self-healing buff that cures status effects and increases the health of your nearby lower health enemies? Boom! Use Wish. Soraka as a base healer is probably a better healer than some of the later entries, so why is she only number 4? Well, again, her personality is pretty bland. She takes the benevolent healing shtick as her only major personality trait, especially since this current backstory doesn't have any of the major motivations or hardships that she had in previous ones. Despite that, Soraka is still one of the best healers in the game and on this list. Plus, she heals people using Starlight. Not only is that an incredibly unique method of healing, it's pretty nuts considering how stars actually are. Princess Peach, Mario's signature damsel in distress. While her role has always been the character you need to save, it's happened so many times that I can't help but feel a little tired of it. Thankfully, she makes up for much of it by being a key player in a handful of Mario RPGs, particularly Legend of the Seven Stars. Peach in the RPG games has always been an entertaining character. On top of being a sassy alpha female, she's also proud to take charge of a situation for the sake of her friends and people, even at the cost of her own safety. Basically, the closest we get to the one from the adventure comic. Here, it's no exception. Peach plays the crucial role of a healer in Mario's team, and she is really good at it. Her first special, Therapy, heals a single party member and cures all status ailments if followed up with a timed hit. Group Hug does the same, but with everyone. The icing on the cake? They take up only 2 to 4 FPs, making them some of the cheapest specials in the game. There's pretty much no reason not to have Peach in your party and not to spam these whenever your party is in a pinch. She also has other specials that can revive fallen allies, silence enemies, and put them to sleep, but there's almost no reason to use any of that when she's already pretty dang good at keeping everyone alive as she does. The only use you'll ever have for healing items is for her, and even then she can be equipped to negate anything that would bring her down. The Lazy Shell pumps up her defense and makes her an immovable object, and the True Form Pin prevents her from turning into a mushroom. Yep, the one weakness that keeps her from healing, and it's easily mitigated. Now, yes, she does have some offensive outputs as well, her Frying Pan being one of the strongest weapons you can get, and the Psycho Bomb is a very optimal AoE. While this does mean Peach is a little less strict in her role, you also don't need to use those attacks. Her healing is so good it might as well be all you need. It goes without saying that the instant Peach joins your team, she kind of breaks the game. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, considering it's tradition for Square that all their RPGs have an easy win mechanic. While that is the case, she's still factually one of the best healers you'll ever find in the genre. Funny with how many magic-driven clerics we have, most of them get their butts kicked by a princess who just gives good vibes. Physical healing is all well and good for a healer. However, most neglect another vital type of healing, the emotional and mental. You can have a healthy body, but if you don't have a healthy mind or even a healthy soul, it's not going to be useful. That's why psychiatry deserves as strong a credit in the medical field, and Ace Attorney's own Athena Cykes puts that practice to great use. As a fresh woman of the Phoenix Wright Attorney Agency, Athena brings her own brand of color to the team. Right as sunshine, shares a great chemistry with her partners, and even got a pitch black dark backstory to scare us with. Don't let her zany exterior fool you. She's actually quite mature as well. An important trait to have as she asserts her role in psychology. Aside from defending her client and uncovering truths with evidence, she has the ability to look into another aspect: emotions. Some witnesses conceal a degree of truth to how they react to certain events and how they voice their testimonies. By analyzing these aspects, Athena can uncover these truths and receive more information. While some look down on her at first, since emotions don't directly tie to physical evidence, her methods have proven to be helpful in solving the cases she's involved in. For example, in Turnabout Academy, Hugh O'Connor gave a testimony that's riddled with lies as a desperate attempt to protect Juniper. Taking the time to listen to him, Athena is able to remove his emotional shell and help him recover from the stress of his conflicted relationship with his best friends. By doing so, not only did she heal Hugh emotionally, save the friendship of 3 people, but she also uncovered new evidence by seeking the truths he unknowingly slipped within his lies. Another instance is in Turnabout's storytelling, where she questioned Uendo Tonedo, a Rakugo performer suffering from dissociative identity disorder. Through her psychological approach, she's able to understand how Wendo's mind works and drew a reliable testimony from one of his hidden personalities. Symbolically, Athena's efforts did help the courts recover from a dark age when the laws and facts are easily twisted due to evidence being easily concealed and fabricated. She not only healed people's minds, but she was also a big catalyst to healing the court system itself. Psychology has become a more efficient weapon to use against liars and a tool of healing for the emotionally wounded. It's a new layer of investigation the court has been needing all those years, and they have our sparkling little attorney to thank for it. Nurse Joy from Pokemon, stationed at literally every Pokemon Center, always ready to heal your party with a smile on her face, and has an enormous family tree apparently. Rossi from Deltarune. His attack and defense can't quite cut it, but he compensates with healing spells. Ophelia, Octopath. She's a cleric. I'm a D&D nerd. You connect the dots. Yukiko, Persona 4. Good healing move pool, but Persona doesn't really count individual healing power as a factor.
Okay. I know 2 out of the top 5 on this list are 2 of my favorite females in gaming, but I swear that wasn't intentional, alright? I try to put a lot of integrity into these lists, and I try to be as unbiased as possible. With that said, let's talk about number 1, Mipha! Okay, maybe a little bias.
Honestly, I don't even need to be biased to put Mipha at number 1. I think that's how that works. Anyways, as both a character and healer, Mipha stands above the rest as an entry. First off, let's talk about her character. Part of what makes a good healer personality is compassion, the capacity for self-sacrifice, and how much they try to help people be better. She's a gentle and soft-spoken soul, but unlike many of these types of characters, she's not timid. She's very courageous and driven when the situation calls for it. Her entire drive is to help others to the best of her ability, which of course includes her childhood friend Link. She also does her best to nurture her little brother Sidon, teaching him life skills as well as self-reliance. There's also a tragedy to her. She has romantic feelings for Link, but given how destiny works in the Zelda universe, she realizes she might have to put them aside. She still holds on to hope, as shown by the fact that she crafted the Zora equivalent of an engagement ring for him. And even in Age of Calamity, where Zelda and Mipha both realize they're competing for Link's affection, they're still very friendly about it. As for her abilities, she has great skills as a healer. With her natural water element, the most common healing element other than light, she is capable of healing others super easily. This is best seen in the ability you get from her in Breath of the Wild, Mipha's Grace. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't Mipha kind of die in the events prior to the game? Oh yeah, she did. Her devotion to helping others, and Link in particular, lets her heal him from beyond the grave. Anyone who got her ability in Breath of the Wild knows how useful it is from saving you from certain death. That alone could put her super high, but what puts her over the top is her appearance in Age of Calamity. To start, her first mission is a rescue, which is very flavorful for this list. But what really gets her up here is her moveset. Her ability to defend others with her skills with water magic and Triton abilities gives her a good edge. An ounce of prevention after all. The real kicker, her attacks, and especially her special attack, can heal herself and her allies. You don't understand. It is extremely rare to have that ability in a Musou game. And if that ability does exist, it's hard to acquire. The fact that Mipha gets it as a standard ability, as an AoE, is absolutely busted. Mipha is a fantastic character that deserved more than the fate she got in Breath of the Wild. Between caring for the ones around her, her ability to heal from the other side, and her broken healing ability in Warriors, she more than deserves her spot as my top healer in gaming.
I'm joshscorcher, and... Hello? I'll be right back, guys. Why'd you get bit by a snake in the first place? Were you screwing with it?
Cut!
Hey everyone, this is Josh. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the video around. Please check out my other social media like my Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr. Check out my other channels such as Joshua Burner for reactions and other stuff, Dragon Fighter Gaming for tabletop, and Bob Equestria for cartoons. Consider checking below the video and donating to my Patreon, Streamlabs for my merchandise, or becoming a YouTube member. Thanks for watching.